everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
And I'm Jake Stu.
And today we're talking about Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. Released in 2012. Is that right?
Yes, that is right.
Okay. Released in 2012, directed by Neveldine and Taylor. That's Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor. And written by Scott M. Gimple and Seth Hoffman and David S. Goyer from a story by David S. Goyer, and starring Nicolas Cage, Idris Elba, and Kieran Hines. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's a couple other people in it, but nobody really. Johnny Whitworth, I guess, is maybe the other big name. I had never seen the woman whose name I don't remember now. Danny's mom.
Yeah, I'd never seen her in anything other than this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe she might be a European actress or something, but and then Danny I didn't recognize either. So there's not that many big names in this movie. But
oh, you know what? This was 2011. I thought it was 2012.
Oh, 2011. All right.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2012 as well. Even older than I realized. It's already 11 years old. Crazy.
Wow.
So, Stu, you texted me the other day when you were watching this, and I got the impression that you weren't really enjoying it.
The movie was fantastic. What do you mean?
What was this the first time you had seen
cinema at its finest?
Best Marvel movie ever made.
Best movie ever made.
Wow! All right, amazing. Was that the first time you'd seen it?
No, it was the second time I'd seen it.
Oh, okay.
And I hadn't watched it since the first time, obviously, and I quickly realized why.
Remembered why.
Hadn't watched it in like 10 years.
Yeah.
Or almost 10 years.
So same with me, actually. I went and saw it in the theater. I was actually pretty excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why. I think because I didn't really like the first one. But I think because they had kind of redesigned the character a little bit, made him look a little darker, and Neveldine and Taylor directing it. I don't know. I thought this one could be a lot of fun. And I was wrong. And then I mean, I did buy it, but I actually remember thinking that I liked it more than the first one. Because I think the first one is pretty bad. But
the first one, I remember watching the first one. I was like, you know what? This is not good, but it's not as terrible as other people would make it seem.
Right.
At least in my opinion. But Spirit of Vengeance is far worse. It's there's no mistaking which one is the worst movie. Spirit of Vengeance is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, you're not alone. I'm trying to look it up right now because I know the critics rating for both movies is bad. Yeah. But Spirit of Vengeance is worse. Yeah, so Ghost Rider 1 has a 26%.
Yeah.
And Ghost Rider 2 has an 18%.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're not alone in that camp.
Yeah, for me the first one is like a soft bad. It's it's a little overly campy.
Right.
But, I still managed to have some fun with it. I enjoyed it for what it was.
Sure.
But I still recognize it's not a very good movie. I don't think it tries to be. But this movie, the Spirit of it, it's easily one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I can honestly say that.
That's funny. Well, I have a question for you because I know you also don't like the movie Face Off. So, are you not a fan of Nicolas Cage?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
The thing about Nicolas Cage is that his filmography is all over the place.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
He has done every genre, every level of movie you can do. He's done like the highest of high in cinema, and then he's done absolute
trash
dishwater.
Yeah, right, yeah. And he's won an Oscar.
Yeah, he's won an Oscar. So like he can. I like Nicolas Cage. He's clearly he clearly takes his craft seriously. I mean he has been in everything.
Right.
But he clearly knows how to give a good performance. It's just that his filmography choice has no discretion.
Right.
He
especially as of late,
he's not picky at all.
Yeah. Especially lately, it seems like within the last decade, he's done a lot of straight to video movies, even though I guess you can't really call them that anymore because they don't go straight to video. They go straight to streaming. Yeah, streaming services or something. But he's done a lot of those, and they have all looked pretty bad. I've watched a couple of them here and there, and they are.
I heard Willy's Wonderland was pretty bad, but I heard Pig was pretty decent though.
Pig was good. That's what I was gonna say. Like he does for every 7 or 8 straight to streaming terrible movies he does like a movie that gets a theatrical release or whatever and is actually really, really good, and Pig was one of them. Pig was really good. My wife and I both actually enjoyed Pig last year or 2 years ago, whenever it came out. I'm
hearing that his latest movie is pretty good. I forget the name of it. It has some
the unbearable weight of massive talent. I really want to see that one.
Yes,
that was actually, I don't know if you remember, that was it was in my top 10 most anticipated of 2022. Or it might have been
remember.
It might have been a runner-up actually, but
I think that was a runner-up.
Yeah.
It's funny because maybe 6 or 7 of the movies that we mentioned are now delayed
and pushed to 2023. I know, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I really want to see that new one with him. I think it looks great. I mean, anytime Nicolas Cage, I love Nicolas Cage, and now granted, I don't love all of his movies, but he's just very entertaining to watch, and I love when they allow him to be as big as he kind of wants to be.
Yeah, he gives 100% in every movie,
and that's I think probably the only redeeming quality of this movie is I feel like Neveldine and Taylor said, Nick, just do whatever you want. He was like, cool, because there's a few scenes where he just goes over the top, really, and it's actually the best. It's so good.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It's not a very good movie. I do really like the look of Ghost Rider in this movie, though.
That's easily the best thing about this movie is the design of Ghost Rider. I was watching it with my wife. Well, I was watching it, and she was watching me watch it.
She was counting down the minutes, basically.
Yeah. And I looked at her, I was like, yo, Ghost Rider looks dope in this movie. He's very very dark and even more demonic, and I like that really gritty, rough look to him in this movie. I don't like the way the movie is shot though. It's there's too much steady cam, too much shaky cam. It's very chaotic. I know that was on purpose, but I'm not feeling it.
I hear you. The directors, Neveldine and Taylor, they did those movies Crank and Crank 2, High Voltage or whatever.
That makes sense.
And so those movies are very chaotic, very shaky cam, a lot of quick cuts. This movie has a lot of quick cuts. There's a couple of shots that I like that they did in this movie, but for the most part, I would agree with you. It's a little too much.
Yeah, it's like they called the cinematographer. It's like, yo, do a line and then shoot this movie.
Right. Yeah. Well, these are the guys. I don't know if you've ever seen I've seen this video on Instagram a few times where he'll be on you'll see the camera guy on rollerblades holding onto the back of a car, holding a camera. I
have not seen that.
Oh, really? Well, one of the directors, I think it's Neveldine, Mark Neveldine. He's always that guy, in rollerblades, putting himself in danger to get the shot kind of thing. And it's cool, but it's at the same time, one of my favorite shots is ruined by some bad CG. And it's in the very beginning of the movie when Idris Elba is in that car chase and he goes over the side of the cliff. There's a shot from behind him. And I remember seeing the behind the scenes on that where the camera guy was on a harness and he gets sent over the cliff and he's going backwards and shooting. It's probably Idris Elba's stunt person, but he's shooting the guy going off the cliff. And I remember that shot looks really cool, but it's mixed with a close-up of Idris Elba first, that's clearly CG, and then it kind of morphs into that shot, and then it cuts back to Idris Elba, and it's, again, very green screened, you can tell, of him shooting the gun and stuff. So it was a cool shot mixed with some bad CG that kind of ruins it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know exactly what shot you're talking about. Yeah. It does look pretty bad. It's I don't know, like the movie is like, because I got it on right now and looking at it, like the quality of the camera itself,
Mm-hmm.
I like. It looks very crisp,
Right.
but at the same time, the way it's edited, the way the camera
It's like
is
they don't let
moving,
you they don't let you appreciate it because they
yeah. Like I want to like it because,
right.
like I said, it's very crisp and clear. But the way that it's shot is just so all over the place.
Yeah.
They don't let it marinate at all.
Right. Yeah. No, they don't. I think I read somewhere. I looked at the trivia for this movie, and I think it was this movie. They talk about how like there's a cut every it's something like 1.8 seconds or something in this movie.
Yeah.
Like it's just crazy how quickly they cut from and and maybe they were thinking they needed to do it for pacing issues or something, but I don't know. I actually think one of my big problems with this movie is that the middle of the movie is actually really boring.
The middle of the movie is actually really boring.
Right. Like it starts off okay. You get a cool car chase scene with Idris Elba.
It's all right.
Right. It's not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but it's at least somewhat interesting. And then Ghost Rider shows up, the first time Ghost Rider shows up, that was okay. I feel like once Johnny Blaze gets Danny, and they're kind of
once he gets the kid, it comes to an abrupt stall.
Oh yeah. But anyway, they're hanging out with like those monk guys, and that it just gets super boring around that area. There's just a few scenes of people talking to each other, and it just drags.
Yeah, it's that second act is very dialogue heavy.
Yeah. And it's not interesting dialogue.
Like this is Ghost Rider. We just want to see people on fire. Like just show
right.
people on fire.
Right. And then we have a Ghost Rider scene at the end, and that's pretty decent, and then it ends. So it's
Yeah.
So yeah, the story is really the biggest problem. I mean, there's obviously lots of problems.
I mean, yeah,
the camera work and everything like you were talking about, but the story itself is just not very good. And I had heard like David S. Goyer is credited with the story. He also worked on Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman and the Dark Knight trilogy.
He also has a filmography that is all over the place. He has really good movies and he has really bad movies.
Right. Well, apparently his original screenplay for this movie was a like dark R-rated film, and I'm guessing Sony wanted it to be PG-13.
Yeah, the studio was like, nah.
Right, and so they brought in these other writers and they changed it around, and so I would be curious to read David S. Goyer's original screenplay and see if it's better. Because I feel like it's got to be.
Not.
Well, maybe not. But the whole story about Danny and I don't know. It's not very interesting, and I don't know. It's just not a very good story.
No, I mean the story sucks.
Yeah.
The cast sucks. Idris Elba is useless. He's using a terrible French accent.
Yeah,
it is awful.
He's better than this movie. Yeah,
he's way better than this movie. And this movie came out like right around the time he was like blowing up.
Yeah.
Everybody is pretty bad. The mom is awful.
Right.
She's awful in this movie.
Yeah.
Nicolas
Kerrigan.
Cage is,
Johnny Whitworth. He's not very good.
Yeah, he's pretty bad. Nicolas Cage is the only decent person in this movie, and it's only because he's so over the top.
Right, it's because he's allowed to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah, you can clearly tell he's having a blast.
Right,
shooting this awful movie.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's like, hey man, I'm playing Ghost Rider. I'm having fun. One of the things that I thought was weird when I saw it too. I mean, it's a sequel, but it doesn't really feel like a sequel. It kind of stands on its own. I mean, it definitely stands on its own as a Ghost Rider movie, but it's the voiceover in the beginning, he talks about doing a jump, an Evel Knievel type jump, but it's not the one he did in the previous movie. And then when we see the scene of him making the deal with the devil, it's not what we saw from the first movie. So I was curious if they were basically like, is this considered a sequel, or is this like, hey, we're just trying again? This is like almost like a reboot of Ghost Rider.
I think it I think this movie suffers from the X-Men syndrome. So like they say it's all connected, but really each movie stands on its own.
Right, right.
Which is not on purpose. They just don't pay attention to the last
right.
movie. Just watch the last movie before you write this one. It's that
right.
simple.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this movie feels like it's a completely different movie.
Yeah. Especially with the redesign of Ghost Rider and the different guy, there's a different guy playing the devil this time. So, and they kind of explain that with there's the shot of Jerry Springer, which was ridiculous.
That part just showed up.
Did it? Yeah. So it's supposed to be like the devil has come to Earth, and every time he comes to Earth, he's kind of inhabits a different body or a different person, and so that's kind of how they covered that up. But at the same time, in the flashback, he looks like Kieran Hines. He doesn't look like Peter Fonda. So, right. I don't care if it's connected or not, really, I guess. Because neither of the movies are any good, so it's not like I was really dying for a connected Ghost Rider 2, but I was just curious, But it's cool. I mean, I guess if you consider it a soft reboot, it's kind of cool that they brought Nicolas Cage back. Maybe they had to. Maybe he had signed a contract
absolutely
or something.
had to. After the first movie, which, like I said, I still enjoy, but I recognize it's not good. But after the first movie, like no one was going to see it if
they had recast it.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned Ghost Rider being an enjoyable but bad movie, because that's kind of how I feel about the Ben Affleck Daredevil, and it's the same writer director.
I agree.
It's same guy did both movies, so I guess that's just his genre of movie is enjoyable but bad.
But I think that Daredevil is slightly better than
I would agree.
Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
I think that the writer director tried a little bit harder with Daredevil to try to make a decent comic book movie, because it definitely feels very comic booky.
Yes, it does.
Whereas Ghost Rider, while it does feel comic booky, it's more towards the camp side rather than the superhero side.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
There's something else the other thing that I remember reading about this movie, Spirit of Vengeance, was Nicolas Cage actually got to play Ghost Rider this time. Like, I guess in the first movie, maybe it was a stuntman or maybe it was all CG. I'm not entirely sure. But this time, like when it was Ghost Rider, it was actually Nicolas Cage on set, and he actually painted like dark circles around his eyes.
Oh,
and he had like LED lights or something on his head, like he was wearing like a cap with like lights attached to it, so that way it would give off the orange glow or whatever.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's why and it makes sense too, because especially the first scene when Ghost Rider shows up, he does some weird stuff where he just kind of stands there and his head's kind of bobbling and stuff, and you're like, this is Nicolas Cage just enjoying what he's doing.
That's like 100% Nicolas Cage.
So that was kind of cool. I thought that it was fun that he got to actually be Ghost Rider for this film rather than just Johnny Blaze. We mentioned Kerrigan. I want to talk about him. He is the least menacing bad guy maybe in the history of cinema. He's just so not menacing at all.
Yeah.
He's terrible. Even when he turns into, and I forget his name, Blackout or something. Even when he gets,
I believe that is his name, Blackout.
Yeah, when he gets turned into that guy, he's still not menacing at all.
Not at all.
So
he feels like he just feels like a. I mean, I guess he is. He feels like a minion rather than
absolutely,
villain. Yeah, just a pawn, just somebody that's in the way.
Right. Yeah. And it's somebody that Ghost Rider really should have no trouble just murdering or whatever Ghost Rider does, penance staring at him.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he's kind of set up is, I mean, he's not really, I wouldn't say he's like Rourke's right-hand man, but he's the guy that Rourke depended on to get the job done.
Yeah.
And then he's turned into this villain character, Blackout. I don't know. I just was waiting for that dude to just die. He's
and he's kind of annoying too.
He is. Yeah. I can't think of any other Johnny Whitworth movies. I know I've seen that guy before. And I have no idea. Maybe he's good in those movies, but in this movie, he just felt very generic bad guy. Like, there's a part where Danny says something in the car and he turns around and he's like, did I say you could talk? It's just like, it just feels very, this is how a bad guy talks. You know, like that's what the writer would write and stuff.
It's not genuine.
Exactly. Right. Maybe Johnny Whitworth is a really nice guy and he's just really bad at playing, playing a bad guy. I don't know. Who knows?
Maybe.
But a lot of the dialogue in this movie is just awful, and I think that's also part of the problem. You know, when you got really bad dialogue,
delivery is terrible.
It's really hard to be convincing when your dialogue is bad. There's a scene with the mom when she first encounters Nicolas Cage, and she's like saying something about the devil. Like, did the devil send you? You know, it's just I don't know. It's just cringeworthy, pretty much. You know.
Yeah, this whole movie is just a 1 hour and a half cringe moment.
Yeah. At least it's only an hour and a half.
Bro, that was the longest hour and a half of my life. I was dreading watching this movie, and I could not wait for it to go off. I almost turned it off. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna imagine at the end of the movie.
I'm just gonna do the podcast and be like, yeah, I watched it, and we'll just I'll say, yeah, that part was bad. Yeah, I hated that part.
It was this was a very, very difficult watch.
Yeah,
and what makes it worse is that there was no way that I could stream this movie.
So you had to go out and buy it.
I had to buy it. So I spent $10 on one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I'm sorry.
That I am never going to watch again.
Sorry about that. Hey, so if you want to give Stu $10, we'll put his Venmo information at the bottom of the screen. No, yeah, that was a bummer. I know that we've done a lot of movies on the podcast that we really liked, and I believe it was your idea, Stu, to do a movie that was bad. And so I forget what the other movie that we had talked about doing. We kind of decided between two, and we went with Ghost Rider. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Ghost Rider unfortunately is not streaming. I do own it, so at least I was able to watch it that way. But then of course John conveniently goes out of town and didn't have to sit through Ghost Rider 2. So I think maybe we should do another bad movie next week.
We should. He needs to get a piece of this terribleness.
That's right. Let me look at my notes here. See what else we can possibly talk about with Ghost Rider 2. This might end up being the shortest episode of all time.
Yeah, there are not many redeeming qualities, if any, in this movie.
That's very true.
I was happy when it ended, when it went off. That was cool.
Yeah. I want to say I like the Ghost Rider scenes, but those aren't even that great. The note I wrote was when we first see Ghost Rider in the movie, his entrance, it's when Kerrigan has kind of caught up with the woman and her son. I really can't remember her name. Can't remember if it's Maria or something, but
I think it's Nadia.
Nadia, that's what it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
They meet up with Nadia and her son, and he comes kind of flying over the top. You know, the camera moves, tilts up and kind of follows him as he lands. And I thought that entrance was pretty cool. But the problem with that scene that I have is nobody is scared of him. Everybody, there's one henchman that kind of is staring, and he falls to his knees at one point. But nobody else reacts.
Yeah, he's not inciting any fear in anybody.
Nothing.
That's something on the part of the director.
Yes,
he should have
absolutely,
or they should have instructed people to look, fearful.
Yes.
And I'm watching this part right now where they're in the construction site or whatever.
Oh yeah.
He's spinning around for no reason. I don't know why he's doing
that was another note I wrote. I said I'm not sure why he levitates and spins.
Counterclockwise.
I have not been able to find any explanation for that online. I have no idea why he does that. That was a weird choice on the part of the directors.
Now he just spit out the bullets. That was cool.
That I liked. I actually also like in that scene when he kind of takes over the construction equipment and that gets all set on fire and everything. That's kind of cool. But yeah, in his original scene, even Danny is knocked out when Ghost Rider first shows up, and he wakes up in the middle of Ghost Rider, I think he wakes up when he's giving that one guy the penance stare.
Yeah.
And he has no reaction either. He just is like, There's a guy with his head on fire here. Cool. Like, it's just mind-boggling that you wouldn't have people freaking out. I mean, if somebody came up to me and they were a skull on fire, I would be very scared.
To say the least, I would probably poop my pants.
Yes. And that none of these guys, they're just like, Johnny Whitworth is just like, we'll kill it. It's just, I don't know. It was just, yeah. Very terrible.
Yeah, now the
it's like a crane or something type
crane
thing, right?
is on fire. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
So there's like 3 scenes in this movie that I like, and they're all, well, maybe 4. They're all just Ghost Rider moments, basically, you know?
Yeah.
Everything else is meh. I did write, after the original scene of Ghost Rider showing up, Nicolas Cage is injured, so he ends up in the hospital, and I said it was very convenient that they put Nicolas Cage in the hospital room that has all the drugs in it in an unlocked cabinet.
Yeah.
Again, just
that was not
right.
thought out.
Now there is one Ghost Rider moment that I really don't like. I'm kind of torn on it because, like, I understand why they did it, but at the same time it is kind of cringy too. It's when the kid asks, "What if you have to pee when you're Ghost Riding?" And Nicolas Cage is like, "It's awesome," and you see the shot of him.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. Seems like
stupid.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And he turns around and looks at the kid like,
right, yeah.
Like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah, that's weird. Unfortunately, I didn't take a whole lot of notes. The only other note I wrote,
I didn't take any.
Is about Blackout, and I wrote, "I'm impressed that he could open a Twinkie one-handed." That's how bad this movie is that I'm noticing things like that, and those are my notes.
Oh man.
So yeah, my favorite scene. I will talk about this. My favorite scene in the movie is actually a Nicolas Cage scene. It's not a Ghost Rider scene. And it's when Danny has been kidnapped by Kerrigan, and Nadia, he's teamed up with Nadia, and they go to see somebody Nadia knows that knows Kerrigan. And Nicolas Cage has him like pushed up against the wall, and he's saying stuff about how he's like, "I'm sure Kerrigan told you about the guy that showed up and killed his men last night." He's like, "That thing is inside me." That scene I love because that's the scene I think about when I think the directors were just like, "Nick, do whatever you want."
Do whatever you want.
Because he's got a line in there where he's like, he says, the line is he's scratching at the door or whatever, but he's like, "He's scratching at the door."
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's so Nicolas Cage, and it makes me smile every time I see it.
That part was before the construction site, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Stuck the phone in the guy's mouth.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's like, it's got that weird CGI where like his eye like keeps kind of turning into the skull eye, and then he kind of sucks it back in. And then right after that, we get him on the motorcycle, and he's like kind of staring at the
shaking
camera.
His head, yeah.
Right. It's another just go crazy Nick scene, but not quite as good as that little scene. I love that little scene with him. But yeah, what do you think about Kieran Hines as Rourke?
Don't like him.
Yeah.
He's terrible, just like everyone else in the movie.
Again, Kieran Hines is better than this movie because wasn't Kieran Hines the Steppenwolf?
Steppenwolf.
Yeah. And he's so good in that.
Yeah, he's much better.
Right.
Than whatever he was doing in this movie. I think it's lack of good direction.
Yeah.
Because like you said, Kieran Hines, he's a really good actor. And even in a terrible movie, actors, when they have the talent still shows.
Right.
But there are occasions like this movie where no matter how good you are, if you have a bad director, then that's your talent is not going to be it's not going to showcase itself.
Right.
You're just going to see how bad the performance is in conjunction with the bad direction and the bad writing,
right,
the bad editing. It's just, this movie is just all around terrible.
That's funny. No, but you're 100% correct. I think you're right. I think Neveldine and Taylor, I honestly have not, because I'm not a huge fan of the Crank movies. And they
I've
actually
never seen them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. I think you would not like well, I don't know. I mean, the chaotic energy, it kind of serves almost a purpose in those movies, at least, because the whole idea in that movie is, at least the first one, and I haven't seen it forever, so I might be a little wrong on this, but it's like he either has like a bomb on his heart, or he was injected with something that's going to kill him if he doesn't keep his heart rate above a certain level.
Right.
So he's got to like keep the adrenaline flowing. So he's constantly doing crazy things to keep his heart rate up, like shocking himself with, like, what are they called?
Jumper cables.
Jumper cables. Yeah. Things like that. Just crazy stuff. And so the chaotic energy kind of serves a purpose in those movies, but I'm not a huge fan of either of them.
Yeah.
And they actually have not directed a movie together since this movie.
Yeah.
Brian Taylor did another Nicolas Cage movie called Mom and Dad, and I didn't love that movie either. So I kind of think I'm not really a Neveldine and Taylor fan. So I don't know. I'm not, they might be more style over substance. Clearly they're
clearly style over substance.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, even Mom and Dad had kind of a chaotic energy. I mean, the only good thing about that movie was Nicolas Cage too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I think they might fall into kind of the bad director category.
Yeah, and I don't enjoy saying that.
I don't either.
I know I've said that this movie is terrible maybe about 15 times since we started recording.
5 stars.
But I really don't like saying that because making a movie is hard.
Right. Yeah.
Good or bad, it's difficult to do.
Right.
But there are movies like this where it feels lazy, and that's kind of a slap in the face to the craft.
Right.
And it's like, really, like, you worked hard to make this when there are some easy fixes that could make it bearable.
Right.
It may not necessarily make it good, but a movie this bad doesn't have to be this bad.
Right. Right.
And that's, like I said, that's kind of a slap in the face.
Right. And I'd be curious, and I don't like bashing anybody either. That's why I kind of had beat around the bush so far in calling them bad directors, because I don't necessarily, number one, know if that's true, and number two, how many movies have I directed? None. So it's like, who am I to say?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, I kind of agree with you. It's like, I wonder if it was lazy. Like, I wonder if they had the mindset of, this is a Ghost Rider movie. It doesn't matter if the story is there because it's Ghost Rider. Or if it was more of like an arrogance thing where they were like, we're going to do
whatever we want.
Right. And we're going to make it great. And it's going to be great. I don't know. I'd be kind of curious to know how the process went with this movie. Or maybe they had a lot of studio interference or something and they didn't get to do what they really wanted to do and stuff. I don't know. I'd be very curious, because I know the Crank movies are definitely rated R movies and Mom and Dad was R. So I wonder if they signed on to deliver an R-rated Ghost Rider film, but that doesn't still solve the problem of your story problems and your acting problems and things like that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I don't know.
Another thing about this movie is that it is poorly paced.
It is.
That's why I was like, so, like, not what's the word I'm looking for? I was just so uninterested in what was happening.
You weren't connecting with it at all.
Yeah, I wasn't connecting with it at all. I didn't care about any of the characters, and like how the story moves is just the pace is inconsistent.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
We're about halfway through the movie. I'm about halfway through the movie now, and what's his face?
Rourke, the devil?
No,
Kerrigan.
Kerrigan? Yeah, Kerrigan. Who's Kerrigan again?
Kerrigan's kind of the leader of the bad guys who kidnaps the kid originally.
He's Blackout.
He's the guy that turns into Blackout. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He just turned into Blackout just now.
Okay.
I'm like,
gotcha.
He's just now turning into Blackout. Like, this should have been happened.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it does come way late into the movie. That's true.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird, especially because like we said, his Kerrigan is kind of an annoying not intimidating character. So you would think you try to turn him into Blackout as quickly as possible, but
yeah, to make him somewhat interesting.
Right. Yeah. But
it still doesn't help.
It doesn't help. No, you're right. And I was thinking while we were talking earlier about how the opening of the movie was that chase scene with Idris Elba, and I said it was all right, and you were like, it was okay. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, it is kind of weird that you start off your Ghost Rider movie with a character, with like, without Ghost Rider, basically.
Yeah.
Nothing about Ghost Rider, other than I think Idris Elba says something about like the rider. He needs to be taken to the rider or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you'd think you would start off with a Ghost Rider scene. Start your movie off with a Ghost Rider action scene, but
or at least try to connect us with the kid.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. It was like they talk about the kid and
you don't even see the kid.
And you don't. All of a sudden, it's like the mom and the kid are running down the stairs, and you're like, I guess that's the kid? I guess that's who we're supposed to care about? Yeah, it was really bizarre. I wonder if there was a deleted scene or something with them in the beginning that they thought maybe slowed the movie down or something. But yeah, I thought that was really weird too. It was just kind of... It feels like it wasn't thought out enough. That's kind of what... It feels like a first draft of a script. And everybody went, yep, good enough.
That is exactly what it feels like. It feels like a first draft. It's very loose. There's nothing holding this movie together.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there.
Well, Stu, I have a feeling I kind of know what you are going to say here, but let's go ahead and go into our ratings and rate Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance.
I guess I'll go first. 5 out of 5. Great movie. High quality H2O right there.
Better than Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Better than Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is like Schindler's List, Citizen Kane.
Forget the Batman. Yeah.
What is Gone with the Wind? Like, what is that? What is Titanic?
Wait till you see Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance.
But no, truthfully, this is the exact opposite. This is on the furthest end of the spectrum that you can possibly be. This movie is not well directed. It's not well shot. The performances are not good at all, outside of Nicolas Cage. So yeah, half star. I'm gonna give it a half of Ghost Rider Skull.
As low as you can get.
As low as you can get. Doesn't get any lower than that.
That is pretty low. Actually, I looked up my Letterboxd rating on it before we started recording, and I gave it 2.5 stars. But I'm fairly certain that was years after I had seen it. I had not rewatched it because I had not seen it since the theater until I rewatched it for this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And the more in talking about it with you and everything, I'm going to give it slightly higher than you because I love Nicolas Cage and I do like those cool shots of Ghost Rider that are barely sprinkled through the movie. So I'm going to give it 1 star. One
star.
Yeah, I have nothing. Ghost Rider burnt glove. I don't know. One Kerrigan Twinkie. But that's all I got. It's worse than I remembered it. And the cool, like, I really do like how Ghost Rider looks in the movie. The first movie was more comic accurate, where he had like kind of the leather jacket with the spikes on it, and he has an actual white skull that is in flames. But this one has it's a grungier, dirtier, burnt kind of look to it.
I prefer the look of Ghost Rider in this movie than
I do too. I think I love the smoke coming off the head too, you know. I love the design of Ghost Rider in this movie, and I really wish the movie was as good as he looks.
Yes.
So that alone is not enough to elevate the movie, though, past a full star for me. So it's a 1-star movie for me, unfortunately. Now we got to decide what movie we're gonna make John sit through next week. So.
Yeah, I'm glad we got that out of the way because, I was not looking forward to watching that, and
we should actually just make John watch this movie and do like a 1-man review of it that we'll post, and it has to be a certain length.
He really has to milk it.
Yeah, right. John, it has to be the movie is 95 minutes. Your review needs to be 95 minutes.
Wait, what?
just do a commentary.
Your guys' review wasn't even 95.
Right.
Well, that's what happens when you go out of town.
That's what happens when you miss an episode. We'd love to know what you think about Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. Do you love the movie and we're totally wrong? We'd love to hear you. You can let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can let us know on Instagram or Twitter. Both handles are Cinema Heroes. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM Podcast. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, you can leave a comment down below. Tell us everything you love about Ghost Rider 2 or everything you don't like about Ghost Rider 2. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to hear from you however you want to reach out to us. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.